Illustration markers are incredible tools for artists. They add color quickly and accurately without a time-consuming setup or a messy cleanup. They can be used alone or in combination with other artistic media. This tutorial will teach you what you need to know about illustration markers. You will learn how to use them as I demonstrate by drawing a basketball player. Let's get started. Let's start by giving you some background knowledge. When you use illustration markers, think of yourself as a watercolor artist. I say this because illustration markers enable you with the means to apply transparent color and layer it multiple times. But there's a difference. The colors are pre-mixed and they do not blend together like wet paint, as you can see in this demonstration. There are two different types of special illustration markers: blender markers and gray markers for tones. The blender marker is a little deceptive. It is simply a marker without color in it. It is comprised of the fluid that the marker is mixed in. When it is applied on paper, the colors will bleed together. Notice how the line in between the two colors has disappeared. You will see more examples of how to use the blender in my demonstration. The gray markers are used to build tones. They come in warm and cool chromas. The warm gray markers lean towards the warm orange half of the color wheel, and the cool ones lean towards the cool blue half. As you saw in the previous section, we can't mix marker colors on a palette like paint, so the gray markers become extremely important. These markers give an illustrator the ability to add tones, and tones make an artwork interesting by giving it depth. As you can see, these markers have a range of tones from 1 to 10. 10 is the darkest tone, and 1 is the lightest. In order to use illustration markers to their full capacity, you will need bleed-proof paper. It is specifically made for markers, and it prevents markers from running. Notice the difference in the amount of bleeding of the printer paper on the left compared to the bleed-proof paper on the right. As a final point before you see the demonstration, I wanted to make you aware of an article that I wrote that goes into depth about the nuances of illustration markers. I will recommend color palettes, compare brands, and describe techniques for illustrators. It is a good resource for people who wish to learn about illustration, or for any person who is in the market for illustration markers. I will leave a link in the video description. Alright, we have a lot to cover in a short period of time because of the 10-minute upload limit, but let's try to do that. I'm starting out with Cool Gray number 4 to create the first hints of shadows. I like to start out with the lower number grays and then work my way up to the higher number grays like you're seeing me do right now, just so that I could be sure that I'm happy with the placement. These are not erasable, so you have to be sure of that. Now I'm going over the jersey with the darker red, and you're going to see me use a cadmium red. Here we go. In a second, and I'm going to cover over the rest of the area and create some highlights. I don't have a set process on how I do this. I just have an idea in my mind, and I try to accomplish it with what I know about shadows, highlights, and shapes when I'm drawing. There's the blender. All that the blender does is it softens the lines, it softens the edges, and you saw me use it there. You'll see me use it some more later. I'm using the super black for the opposite effect. I want to create some hard edges, not everywhere, but in a lot of places. And now I'm going in the sunset pink. Regardless of skin tone, you're going to see elements of pink in every person's flesh. And I figured that's a nice neutral place to start. So as you saw, when you saw the finished picture, the gentleman has darker skin, but I'm going to slowly build that up. Warm gray number 1, I'm starting out with a very, very low gray marker, just so that I could do the same thing that I did with the jersey. Get those shadow areas in. Sapphire Blue is a wonderful color to use for highlights. And you're seeing me overlap some of the shadows, but shadows are really complex, so I decided to layer that. Cool Gray number 7, I took a chance here. It actually worked out, but I'm putting in the darker areas of the on the face. If you've seen my pencil drawing videos, you know I like to put in the darker areas first. It's a slightly different process with this. Now, this is really throwing it together, but I'm going to kind of focus on the face for the rest of this tutorial. This is kind of like the faster parts, with the body and with the basketball. Now we're getting back to the face. Now I could get back into the details. Color called suntan. I'm not just making these up. These are the actual color names, believe it or not. And I'm putting, the harder shadows on, and I'm starting to put in the base tones for the face. Light ivy, that's a wonderful color as well to accomplish the same thing as suntan. It just gives it a little bit of difference, and I like that. Cool gray number 4. Yeah, now I'm starting to put the darker shadows in. Made him look like he has a little bit of a beard, but that's okay. I wanted him to have that 5 o'clock shadow effect. Blush, here's where I'm taking a little bit of a chance. And I know that I'm going to cover this over later on with color pencils and oil paint. Those of you who are familiar with my videos know that I do that. So I really wanted that blush to peek through, and I kind of put that on. More suntan. I'm kind of neutralizing the blush. Felt like I did a little bit too much, but that's okay. There's always a creative way to fix things, as you will see very soon. Now I'm trying to just smooth everything out. I'm repeating a lot of the colors, and that's okay as well. It makes it complex. It makes it interesting. And next you're going to see me put a layer of color pencil on. I mentioned before that there's limits to this medium. There's limits to the illustration markers, and that's that you can't mix the colors. You can't mix exact colors. You're dependent upon colors that come right outside the tube. If you merge this with a layer of color pencil and a layer of oil paint, but that's optional, you can overcome all of these deficits that the medium has. In fact, you could just leave it the way that it was, and you get good results. You don't need the color pencil layer. I just like to put it. I love oil paint. Those of you who have heard my videos before, you know that I mention that all the time. It's the most versatile medium because you could mix. I like doing a layer of color pencil, then a layer of oil paint, and it really gives me that range of tones that I love to see in a work of art. So I'm setting up that oil paint with the color pencil now. The color pencil is translucent, and it allows me to put highlights on. With the markers, once you put a dark layer down, you can't put highlights on it unless if you use something like a color pencil. So that's why I'm using the color pencil right now. And then I go from here and I kind of fix it up even further with the oil paint. I'm going to do the same thing with the jersey. Take a look at it now. You really don't need to do this. It enhances the depth. It would have been fine, especially if I added a layer of varnish on top of it, which really would have brought the tones of the marker out. But it would have been fine without the color pencil. It would have been fine without the oil paint that you're going to see in a second. At this point, I always try to take a step back and look at my work from a distance, because there you could see the tones, maybe about 10 feet back. And this is maybe a 9 by 12 inch drawing, so 10 feet on that. It would be even further back if you're working in a bigger drawing. And I'm just trying to see if I see those tones from a distance. You can't physically see me taking a step back, but trust me, I always do. Now I'm using liquid and oil paint. Liquid merges so well with color pencils, and oil paint does too. And I'm putting those last finishing touches on right now. Well, I hope you enjoyed this video. I always answer all comments, so if you have any questions on my process, questions on markers, be sure to leave me a comment, and I'll make sure to answer you. Thanks for watching the video.